Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an instructive game to share with you from 1958. On the white ends, a 21-year-old Mikhail Tal playing against Burkhard Malich, a player still a few years shy of earning his international master title. On board, we have an open Sicilian, classical, and with bishop g5, we enter the Richter-Rauzer variation. This is really a key, a model game for this variation. We're going to see a couple key plans implemented in this one, specifically with a doubled f-pawn structure, not uncommon to see out of this line. Okay, in this game, white heads queenside, and the f-pawn goes 2 steps, and now that this duo is created, there are now 2 pawn advances black has to be attentive to. All right, from here b5, and now this voluntary capture of a pinned piece. Normally you don't play like this, capturing a pinned piece unless first provoked with, let's say, h6. Why this voluntary capture on f6? Well, white knows at this moment black has to recapture with the pawn, take on a doubled f-pawn structure. Why is this the case? Well, if black responds here with queen captures bishop playing within the structure, this is where we could see one of the pawn advances hit. e5 is an excellent follow-up. Breaking down d6, there's a trick right around the corner for white along the d file. This battery is ready to now be unleashed. The tactical point here being d takes e could now be met with knight d takes b5, saying you take my knight, I'm going to take your king. That'd be mate. Okay. Therefore, on this move 10, g takes f. Again, a common structure to see out of this variation. What's the plan of attack? Well, f5. White's trying to influence here black's most important pawn. e6. White wants to see it move or capture. In both cases, the queen knight would have access to d5. d5 would become a hole. This is the fight. White's trying to influence e6. At the same time, e5 is now a hole. Black would like to teleport this dark square bishop there. Can't play like this, but by initiating this capture now on d4, this guy will be able to maneuver there. Notice bishop h6 hits with check, and just in the nick of time it gets to f4, and there's no stopping it from now getting to an optimal post. This is a perfect piece, the best piece in the game, influencing both sides of the board and excellent defensive function. Unopposed dark square bishop on a secure square. Now from here, black plays queen c7. In the computer's eyes, it wants to take away on f5. A word of caution, you really better know what you're doing if you play like this as black. To have all these pawns isolated now and give white access to the d5 square, you have to do your homework, I would say, if you're going to play in this way. We have a bigger fight still being put up over this d5 square. Black is not so quick to go pawn grabbing, giving up the big d5 square. It's queen c7 here. g3, rook c8, and more pressure now being applied to e6. There's still adequate defense over that square. Queen c4, but now comes the third attacker. So clearly trying to influence e6. Black has enough defense there, adds another defender with the king. This is his home. The e7 square, not so easy to get at the king from this square. Follow up now, capture on e6. And in the game, black ends up taking with the bishop. Now, if we consider a different capture, the pawn capture, how can you continue here as white? Well, given that this guy is pretty much the best piece in the position, makes sense to challenge it. Knight d3 is there, looking to just knock that piece out, and go after the king. Some queen h6 move, targeting f6, maybe looking to get to g7, is a potential way forward. To be a bit attentive to c2, but the general idea, swipe this valuable dark square bishop. That can be a plan. Black in this game, on move 19, takes with the bishop. This is now a hole. White hops to it right away. Another path for white is to initiate this exchange on e6, and once more, go after the dark square bishop. Huge difference here between the king positions. Much safer white king. Okay, in this game it's knight d5. We end up with an opposite color bishop position. Black takes the knight here. This piece is intolerable. If you don't take the knight, let's say move the king to f8, knight b6 is going to be a problem eventually. If you play it right now, you're going to get mated in a couple moves. But the simple fix here would be to first swipe that light square bishop and then go in for knight to b6, tracking down the material. Okay, this guy here is captured, and white recaptures here with the pawn. In general, we want to keep playing as white here. We want to keep the queens on since we have the safer king position. Taking with the queen would allow a queen exchange, but bigger than that, it would allow black to give checkmate in two. Queen c2, queen takes b2 next for mate. Okay, we want to keep the queens on. Pawn captures bishop. Rook is under fire now. It ends up going to c5 here. The computer prefers c7. Why is c7 preferable? Well, we're going to see a line eventually where this queen is kind of lacking some air. And by going to c5, she has one less square to go to. Okay. Seems sensible at first glance. Rook to c5. I mean, why not? Right? Put some pressure on the d5 pawn. Okay, we'll see an issue with that soon enough. White activates the last piece. Follow up now is a5. So this turns out to be a blunder. In the computer's eyes, it's suggesting h6. Anyone's guess why h6 is played. The point behind a5, black has his eye on a queen b4, threatening mate on b2, and offering a queen exchange. Okay, let me throw this position to you as a pop quiz. After a5 here, how would you continue as white? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, the best move here, the winning idea, and only winning move, bishop f5. Now let's pause for a moment and try and figure out what's happening with this last move. The bishop, when it was on h3, was just looking in two directions. Well, it is much more active on f5. It's an X-man bishop. It's controlling c2. This 3-point piece is now responsible for supporting the c2 square. So these 14 points generating pressure on c2 addressed now with just a 3-pointer. What does this mean? Well, the white queen is now free to go elsewhere if she wants to. What more is happening? Well, bishop f5 is not just a defensive move. Remember I spoke of this rook c5 move, saying that rook c7 was preferable? Well, this move here is setting up now rook e4, and that would trap the queen. Okay, black now plays queen to b4. Pop quiz number 2. The final pop quiz. How would you respond here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, typical Tal. Of course, we have a sacrifice. Rook takes bishop. That was the most valuable piece in the position. It's now down for the count. There's no longer an issue here on b2. What are you supposed to do now as black? In the game, g takes e is played. If you take with the d pawn, this guy becomes passed and runs right away. And where are you supposed to go with the king? If you go to e8, you're running into d7 with check. You would have to blockade and forget about trying to defend this position here. There are one too many threats for Team White. An alternative for the black king at this stage here, if you go to one of the dark squares, let's just pick one. In both cases, queen h6 is excellent. And it's actually reading a checkmate in 4 from here. There's no stop in this. Queen takes f6. The queen, bishop, and pawn will be enough to weave a mate. Okay. In the case of f takes, that's the move played in the game, white is now able to take advantage of the newly weakened square, g5. Now, earlier, I pointed out, instead of a5, if I'm to just back up a little bit here, I said, instead of a5, h6 was being suggested, and I said, it's anyone's guess why that move is being suggested. I didn't want to spoil the pop quiz. h6, a point or two behind h6, is to stop not only queen h6, but queen g5. h6 prevents both follow-up queen moves. It's essentially preventing this exchange sacrifice on e5. Okay, fast forwarding, we do get the exchange sacrifice in there. The queen can make use of g5, and this is just a winning attack now. The king goes to f8. If he went to e8, it's going to be the same follow-up. Queen f6, hitting the rook, hitting the pawn. Rook g8 is the follow-up. The other point with the queen on f6, the f7 pawn is pinned. Final move here. Bishop e6. Black resigns. How are you supposed to defend f7? Rook g7, mate on d8. And king e8, it'll be a checkmate in 2. Queen d7. And finally, rook c7. Well, we could go to d8 in this position here and win a free rook. We don't have to calculate pawn takes bishop. That's illegal. F-pawn is pinned here. There's simply no way to safely defend f7 here. Black knows it and simply resigns. So, what did you think of this one? Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.